Yo, what's going on, guys? Welcome into Bulls Report by Chad Sports. My name is Patrick Siepman, and welcome in. I do want to touch on the report that Shams Charania just came out with that the Bulls want to extend DeMar DeRozan long term, and that was a big reason why he wasn't traded at the NBA trade deadline. So coming up on today's show, I'm going to be kind of explaining to you guys why I don't believe that is a good decision for the Bulls to extend DeMar DeRozan to a long-term deal. But before I dive into that, I just first off want to say thank you to everybody who tuned in for our videos and our coverage of the NBA trade deadline. It was pretty cool. We had around 500 people watching us at once on our live show. Got over 7,000 people to join us live. So I want to say thank you guys so much for tuning into that. It was a ton of fun. Even though the Bulls didn't end up making a move, it was still fun getting on there, chopping it up, and talking about our Bulls with us. So thank you guys so much. And if you guys aren't subscribed yet to the channel, make sure you lock us in and do so. But let's talk about it. So DeMar DeRozan and the Chicago Bulls. There was an interesting quote that DeMar said about the Bulls and them possibly extending him. He compared it to like his to this girl you're talking to, and it's kind of like, you both want to, get into a relationship. Like you want her, she wants you. It just comes down to actually getting it done. And that's kind of how he described the situation of him and the Bulls front office in terms of extending him. And listen, before I get on here and kind of bash the idea of extending DeMar DeRozan, because I do not think it is a right choice for the Bulls moving forward, I will say this about DeMar. Since he got to Chicago, he has done nothing wrong. I think DeMar DeRozan has been everything and more that what the Bulls, expected when they did sign him. Like, just keep it off the court here for a little bit. Like, I think DeMar DeRozan is one of those guys in the NBA that's just a great mentor for younger players, specifically guards in the NBA. Like, he has gone through multiple phases of the NBA, and he's kind of had to switch his game. I wish he would have adapted the three-point ball a little more, early on in his career. But, I do think DeMar DeRozan, like, he's a great locker room guy. He's great off the basketball court. It's just a dude to, young guys can go ask him questions, be like, hey, what does coach mean about this? Or, hey, how should I handle this? Like, DeMar has been through it all in the NBA. So I do think there is incredible value in having a guy like that in your locker room to, not only just be a mentor, but just to be a leader for some of these other guys. And DeMar DeRozan, he has done that to the highest level for the Chicago Bulls. Like, I really do believe some of the development that we've seen from Kobe White and Ayo Dosunmu this season, you can almost chalk that up to DeMar DeRozan. Like, obviously, they still have to put in the work. They still have the talent. They're still the ones making the plays. But I think with having DeMar DeRozan kind of in their corner and in their ear, it has just helped them a ton. Now, on the court, I think DeMar's also been great for the Bulls. I think, yes, he does drive me crazy when it's late in the fourth quarter, and this year I would rather have the ball be, in the hands of Kobe White instead of him, but he is still a great closer. You can still throw him the basketball, and you can kind of clear out, flatten out, and he can go get a bucket. But, the thing is with, in terms of the Bulls extending him long-term and why it just, doesn't really make sense for me on why the Bulls would want to do that, is mainly because what type of timeline are the Bulls on right now? Are the Bulls trying to win, all in the next 3 years with this big three still? And it just still seems like, after this deadline passed and the Bulls did not make a trade, that is still fully their thoughts. And what's so concerning is I still think the Bulls are looking at that Lonzo Ball injury and the fact that he's back at practice now and he's getting pull-up jump shots in. He's looking good, and shout out to Lonzo. I hope he is. He's a guy I always root for. But I do feel like the Bulls front office is just looking at him and they're just like, man, once we get Lonzo back, are we going to be back to the top of the Eastern Conference? Like, I just really hope they're not thinking that because – listen, the Bulls, those 35 games with Lonzo, yes, they were magical. They were the number one seed. They were beating teams pretty bad, too. It's not just they were, like, skating by. They were blowing some teams out and looking like a really, really good basketball team. But the thing is, DeMar's older. LaVine's more injury-prone. Vooch has just completely fallen off defensively, where I think he's one of the worst defensive bigs in the National Basketball League. Like, that's why it's just like, I don't know if the Bulls are kind of sitting there being like, oh, man, like, if we could get Lonzo back, like, then we could be really good in the future. So we should extend DeMar, lock him up, and then we can still bring back this core and be good. Like, I just think it's time to move on. And, maybe it's a different type of deal that I don't see. And it's, a 2-year, $40 million deal with DeMar. And then, maybe sign me up for that. Like, I could see that being the case. But if I had to choose it right now, I'd say no to extending DeMar DeRozan. But let me know what you guys have to think. Would you extend DeMar DeRozan this offseason. Sign him to a long-term deal. The man, I can't believe a long-term deal. It's just wild that the Bulls said that. But give me a Y for yes or give me an N for no down in the comment section if you would extend DeMar DeRozan. Now, before we dive into more here, just kind of summing up my thoughts on the Bulls trade deadline and going over maybe a couple buyout targets, buyout candidates as well. I do want to give a huge shout out to Prize Picks, today's sponsor of today's edition of the Bulls Report by Chat Sports. If you guys hit the prizepicks.com/CLNS and use promo code CLNS, you will get a first deposit match all the way up to $100. Get hooked up today. Prize Picks, it's daily fantasy sports made easy. It's the #1 way to play daily fantasy. I absolutely love Prize Picks. It makes the boring games even a whole lot more entertaining. So if you guys want to get involved in on the fun, prizepicks.com/CLNS, code CLNS. You guys will get a first deposit match up to $100. Also, I'll put that link for you guys in the comment section and description of today's show so it's easily accessible. Now let's kind of wrap up our thoughts, just kind of talking about the trade deadline here as, you know, another trade deadline came and passed and the Bulls make no moves. And yes, it is extremely disappointing. You know, I'm not saying the Bulls could have fixed all their issues by making trades at the deadline. Like, I'm not saying, like, oh, if they would have traded LaVine, DeRozan, Vooch, like, we would have been in a way better spot. No, I don't think that, but you would have set yourself up better. And, you know, we're still looking at this Bulls roster, and, you know, you got young talent that I like. You know, I like Kobe White. I like Ayo Dosunmu. I like even a guy like Patrick Williams. But besides that, you don't really have any young talent or young players that you could really, you know, grip your teeth into and saying, like, that's our guy. That's who we want, you know, kind of around this team. And, you know, I think when you would have traded a guy like LaVine, DeRozan, and Vooch, you would have maybe seen that in your very own Kobe White. Or you would have gotten draft picks. Or you would have gotten, you know, a young player that could have developed into something. And that's why I just get so frustrated because it's like, you know, what's the standard in Chicago? Are we trying to be a playing team? Are we trying to be a first-round exit? You know, what are we trying to do here? Because it just seems like the Bulls are content being the 7th through 10th seed in the Eastern Conference for the next 5 years. And that's just not okay because this team right here, the Bulls, and this fan base, and this city, they deserve more. They don't deserve conference finals appearances. They don't even deserve that. They deserve NBA finals. They deserve to be at the top of the NBA, and it's just disappointing that another trade deadline came and went, and the Bulls are just kind of sitting back and just being like, we're good. We hear the fans. We know what's been going on, but do we care? No, and it just kind of seems like a total FU to the fan base. And, you know, listen, you could go sign a guy like a Joe Harris, you know, you can go sign a Kyle Lowry or whatever it may be, even though it sounds like Lowry's heading to Philly. But, you know, there are moves you can make. But, again, what's it going to do? Like, if you bring in a buyout candidate or buyout target, it's going to bring you from what? The 9th seed to the 9th seed? Like, that's the thing with the Bulls. Like, you know, and I'm not even saying, like, there was a perfect trade out there. Like, we heard the report that the Bulls are trying to get Kuminga for Caruso. Are you out of your damn mind? The Warriors aren't giving up Kuminga for Caruso, and I love Caruso. But the fact that even the Bulls front office thought, oh, we could try to swing Jonathan Kuminga for Alex Caruso is insane. And also this, I'll end it on this point. I don't necessarily think that the Bulls at these trade deadlines are literally just sitting there taking no calls because teams are calling them, no doubt. Like, the Bulls had pieces that they could have shipped off. Teams were calling. I just think the Bulls, when the other teams call and Arturas and Mark Eversley, you know, pick up the phone and they're like, hey, what's up? Like, what's your trade value for Caruso? And then the Bulls tell them, and then they're just like, all right, you're not being serious. And then they're like, oh, give us Kuminga. And then they're probably like, dude, we're hanging up on you. Like, that's what's probably so frustrating, that now these other GMs are looking at the Bulls and being like, they just overvalue their own assets. And this video could so easily turn into a whole rant that I could have about Chicago. But I did want to get you guys a report that Shams said that the Bulls' intention is to extend DeMar DeRozan to a long-term deal. Can't believe that's what the Bulls want to do, but I wanted to get you guys that report for the weekend. So thank you guys so much for watching today's show. Bulls, trade deadline losers. They want to extend DeMar. They're just doing everything that I wouldn't do running this basketball team. But thank you guys so much for watching today's show. See you guys next time. Make sure you subscribe to the channel. Any moves go down, we got you with the video. And as always, ladies and gentlemen, go Bulls.